Welcome to Tycoon Global Media Podcast. Today we have Mr. Alberto Guani. He's ambassador to Uruguay. We are welcoming him in our podcast, and this is amazing, wonderful, going to have a good session with him. So welcome you, sir, Your Excellency. Today we are going to have a very detailed and amazing session with you, and we are looking forward to have a very fruitful and colorful answer from your side, sir. So welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much.
So, Your Excellency, we, India and Uruguay, have a very cooperative, very amazing relationship. So, how do you describe the relationship and what are you saying about the mutual understanding between India and Uruguay, sir?
Well, we have a sort of very long relationship because we have celebrated last year 75 years of the establishment of diplomatic relations. And that is a long way, let's say, to have among two countries. We understand also that we have very great similarities, like, for example, we're also two democracies. Uruguay is one of the most, let's say, antique democracies also in the world because we have political parties that are more than 100 years old. And we see the development of India in this matter as a very important issue that we follow very closely. Now, we have common grounds also, and one of the facts is that, for example, in technology, Uruguay is very advanced. We are already very much used to robotics. We are very much used to drones and also to satellites. So that is an area in which we can agree many things with India too. Uruguay is the biggest software producer in Latin America. We export around $1 billion in that. And we are sure that also in the area of IT, we can do much things together. Uruguay is also at the same time the second country in the world in the appliance of renewable energies. That means we are in the second place after Denmark in the usage of wind, solar, biomass, and we are now in the next line that will be green hydrogen. So in those areas, there are also interesting perspectives to go along with India, because India is also doing a strong impulse of its renewable energies, and we find that we could find common ground. I think also that in this partnership there are many issues that we could add, like for example, even we were talking before, the audiovisual industry is something very important in Uruguay. We are looking forward to have an MOU with the Institution of India for filmmaking. And that is something that we find it would be an interesting perspective too, because India is a very big market that produces a lot overseas. Yes. And we find that Uruguay could be a very interesting destination also for that.
So, Your Excellency, trade is a very important aspect between two countries. So, do you think that any specific area which you see that trade can be increased and it mutually can be beneficial?
Yes, we are trying to find out common ground also with India in this sense. At the moment, the trade balance between both countries is $600 million, which is not much, but it's quite much more than what India has with some of its close partners. So we find it has a great future, and we find that also there are new products that are being taking as possible to introduce. For example, India has been buying much more wood from Uruguay lately. We are trying to see also how we can make complement with the pharma industry, which is also something very important. Uruguay wants to be an innovation hub, and we want also to attract more Indian investments to the region, because we think that Uruguay, for example, has 14 free zones where you can practically produce there without the need to pay taxes and none of these, let's say, obligations that are quite expensive in other countries. And we find that this would benefit also India, because India wants to expand in the region, and we find that Uruguay can be an excellent hub because we have free port, we have a free airport. You can also produce in the airport and in the harbor. So there are many opportunities to establish interesting business to expand to the rest of the continent.
So, do you think any challenges where we are collaborating with India on any particular aspect?
Well, in the multilateral field, we have a lot to do. For example, India is also a very strong contributor for peacekeeping operations. India has supported our aspiration to be part of the Security Council in the future, and we have also supported India in that sense. So we find that in the multilateral field, we have many things to go along. Also, India has been very collaborative and supportive of all what has been the initiation of the Uruguay round in the World Trade Organization. And we're going hand to hand in many issues in that sense. So we find that the scope of activities is very big and is very interesting to push more issues to go along together.
Cultural exchange is very important for both the countries. And in fact, India is very rich in culture also, so that Uruguay. So how do you see that cultural exchange would benefit both the countries, and do you have any way forward, like any plan which we look upon basically?
Yes, we would like to strengthen more the cultural relationship among the countries in the fact that, for example, this is a culture that is more than 3,000 years old, and we understand that it has been having a very important place in history. We are not such an old civilization, I would say, but we also have certain similarities in that sense. We want to bring artists from Uruguay to have Indians get know more about us, and also to receive from India. There is a very interesting exhibition that is called Shakti, done by more or less 100 women, that was in the Museum for Arts here in Delhi, and that we think now is in Mumbai, and they could be taken to Uruguay too, probably in the next year. So that would be an interesting way to try to see how the modern artists are already doing their job in India, and at the same time then see in the future if we can bring more of our artists. We have a Natalia Bolani that is a tango singer, that she will be coming in at the end of August to India, and I hope that also, because everybody says that, tango is from Argentina, but tango is from the Rio de la Plata. It's from both sides of the river, from Argentina and from Uruguay.
Moreover, India and Uruguay both are spearheading this climate change movement. Like climate change is a major factor, major thing which both countries are very spearheading. So let us talk about how Uruguay is, working upon this particular. And do you think that cooperation from India is required to have this kind of a challenge?
Cooperation is always important. The thing is that, for example, climate change is something that has been hitting very hard all over the world. And in our case in particular, I don't know if you have seen through the news lately that there were big floods in the southern part of Brazil, which also affected us because we had all the same problem. So the increase of the level of the seas is also another problem. And we think that there are many, many issues that are related to climate change that we can work together. And especially because there's also a company here that has been established close to Delhi in Noida, that is a Uruguayan company that's having to do with the issue of building boilers. For the boilers are the ones that also create a sort of type of energy coming from the leaves that are burned in the countryside. And that's one of the problems that India has too in the pollutions. They have already established 8 boilers in India, and they think they could go at least to 1,000. So that's an interesting contribution also. And we find that there are many ways in which the countries can go along in this issue because it's really worrying in all this side also of agriculture, the impact that this is having, and that we need to also do with India. We want to have a memorandum of understanding in agriculture so we could also make studies together and see how we can project certain demands that the agricultural field has.
So, being a ambassador, there are many challenges you are facing promoting reggae in India. What are they? And as opportunities which you look upon in India, which you really wanted to take upon and work upon that. So we have challenges and we have opportunities. So what are they basically?
Well, one of them, it has to do with sports, for example. In India, still football is not very much expanded, I would say, except in the southern part of the country. We have an Indian player that has been gone to work play in Uruguay almost 2 months ago. And we will see how interesting this can be, that an Indian player can maybe develop himself and do an interesting role in Uruguay. This would be something because, now we celebrate that it's been 100 years since the first World Cup in Paris in 1924, where Uruguay won. At that time, the team of Switzerland. It was almost, I think, 3-1. And we were the first world champion. We are a country of football too. And we have a great soccer museum in Montevideo. We have the stadium that is practically a monument of world's football. And we think we can do many things in that area. So besides sports, it is also important to think how we can adjust to those other demands that come, and it's a way in which we can also be known in the country through sports.
So, Mr. Guani, you are a very seasoned diplomat, and you've been stationed in many countries. Like before that, you were in Germany. So, what are you suggesting to your peers and who wanted to get into diplomacy and like your counterparts basically? What do you suggest to them? What is the advice basically?
Well, the first thing, I think one has to be very flexible because things change very fast.
Very fast.
And that's one of the biggest challenges. One has to be adapted to follow the changes, be very patient because things do not get done from one day to the other. Especially in diplomacy, it's some people say it's the art of administering, making a good administration of the time.
Right.
So that is also a very important thing to do. The new generations are very qualified. They look upon the interesting perspective. So I find that it's a career that has a very interesting future. And especially, it is very attractive to think about India, where we are so far and when we need young diplomats to start seeing the new challenges that this country has and how we can overcome the different situations that are put in our hands.
So, sir, 3 advices to aspiring diplomats.
That one, be patient. At the same time, be very flexible. And another one would be also to be, open to change in a certain way. We need to know and we need to also study a lot that the cultures are very different, that we need to understand them. And we need to also be very open to go around. Like I always say that India, for example, is not a country, it's a continent because you need to go and travel a lot. You need to see many things that this country has to offer.
Right.
And you have to be always in the certain different spots and be very open to appreciate the differences.
So, sir, in order to have some more, footfall in Uruguay, do you have any particular strategy for tourism in India, or you are approaching likewise, and any particular roadmap you have basically?
Well, we want to attract, of course, the most quantity possible of tourists from India, but we want to tell them that what we have to offer is a country that has no pollution. We can offer you fantastic beaches. We can offer you beautiful woods and natural, authentic native forests, for example. And at the same time, many people don't know that Uruguay has the only Buddhism temple in South America. And a place that is in the mountains. We don't have big mountains because the highest we have is 600 meters, more or less. So it's a very flat, in a very country, but we have places where you can very much enjoy nature and where you have hot springs, you have places where to go. And you're also, we have 1,000 Indians only living in Uruguay. That was the cause because Tata Consulting Services established itself in Uruguay 21 years ago. And we think that because of that, the Indians are now living in Uruguay. They have taken their own traditions and even the food. So there is an Indian restaurant in Uruguay.
Very nice.
So the people that go and visit can also have Indian foods in my country. And we are looking, of course, to expand all that.
So we have an arrival on visa, or we have to take visa from India, then you have to travel?
Well, you can have a visa through e-visa. You have the same process as India has with Uruguay.
Okay.
At the same time, we do not charge anything for the visa. The visa is free. And generally, it takes around 15 days to process the request. And you can have a stay of 30 days and then also a minimum of 90.
Okay.
So it's very flexible, and we need to, as I tell you, make it more easy also for the Indians to travel to.
Your Excellency, most of the production companies, they are traveling for shooting in different countries like Switzerland, like Germany, like other European states as well. They are getting many grants and there are some schemes basically. So do you have any kind of a structure where you can support shooting so that people would get more about the country?
Sure. We have mechanisms and we have special let's say, elements to support the production of audiovisual in Uruguay. We have, for example, the taxes are diminished, and you can have certain promotions and facilities that the country also gives. I think it's very attractive and interesting in a matter of costs and also in a matter of the facilities that the country gives to make productions in Uruguay. It's one of the things we want to do, that we want to promote, because we find that practically 90% of what India produces is done overseas. And we would like Uruguay to be a destination too.
Okay. So, sir, ease of doing business, that is very important right nowadays. When it comes to country, every businessman look upon that. So what do you suggest? What is the ease basically when it comes to a businessman who wanted to invest in Uruguay, or they want to do some kind of a trade basically?
The way that we focus the investments is that, for example, foreign investors are treated the same thing, the way as Uruguayan investors. There's no differentiation between foreigners and Uruguayans. At the same time, all the profits that you make can easily be sent overseas. There are no restrictions for the movement of capital. And at the same time, we're one of the few countries in the region also where you can trade in different currencies. Like you go to an ATM in Uruguay and you can take from the machine pesos, you can take dollars, you can take euros.
Right.
So it's very easy to handle these issues. The financial sector in Uruguay is very, very open. And I think it's one of the other facilities that we have that it's not very easy to find in the region. So that plus, if you also have a particular investment that is declared of national interest, like for example, an Indian hotel chain would like to establish itself in Uruguay because we want to promote tourism, we give them special facilities and we take away taxes for the investment to be much less and for the acquisition of material to be much less than what it should be for another normal activity, let's say. So all these kind of investments are promoted and are challenged for the country to make it as an incentive.
So Indians, do you have a one window policy where in India somebody can approach the embassy for a trade commission where they can get the helpful advice and the guidance to invest in Uruguay?
Sure. We have an institution that it's called Uruguay 21, that it's the promotional and investment institution, which is the one that receives the whole project and studies the way to collaborate, in that case with India. We receive, for example, the project, we send them to them and we request them to give a sort of a roadmap of how to do the business together. And also, the timing it will take for many issues, like registering a company, doing all these kind of bureaucratic, let's say, procedures that one needs. Mm-hmm. So the embassy is the bridge with that institution, and at the same time is what we try to do all the time.
Great, sir. So today we have Ambassador Uruguay, Mr. Alberto Guani. We are really amazing and we are obliged that he is with us in Tycoon Global Media Podcast. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your amazing and wonderful insights. And we look forward to have some more insight in coming podcast. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here in the Global Magazine. I understand this can be a very important link towards better knowing about Uruguay. We are a country that is almost 15,000 kilometers away from India, but we have many things in common, and I find that we could establish many ways to link ourselves better, and at the same time welcome the Indians that would be willing to visit my country. We have a lot of facilities also for investments in Uruguay, and we would like to really make that a more intensive relationship. Was one of the reasons why I think also India should look a little bit more towards Uruguay. And in that, I also have a last message that is it's important that India opens an embassy in Uruguay.